Welcome to Fight Week on 5. My name is Alf Arteaga. This is Johnathan Ramlakhan. You know him as Three Piece Combo. Is that correct
Yes,
on
sir.
Twitter?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're going to be seeing us whenever there's a big fight week. This is a big fight week. It's the first undisputed championship in boxing that I can't remember the last one. Do you remember the last one? Because I don't. Do you, Jonathan?
No, it's been a minute. It's definitely been a while. Probably before I even started watching boxing. That has been a unification.
Well, you're going to see us every time there's a big fight week. We have another one next week. We have another one the following week. So you're going to be seeing us 3 weeks in a row here on the Five Reasons Sports Network's YouTube channel. But let's get into this right away, Jonathan. It's rare that you see a great prospect like Teofimo López getting into what is likely going to be the biggest fight of his life, really, unless he
100%.
moves up. Unless he moves up to welterweight and cleans out that division and takes on the Terrence Crawford, which we don't foresee happening because usually what happens with those guys is that they clean up those divisions and then they move up for bigger and better things. So it's
Right.
very likely that Teofimo López, when he moves up to welterweight, he's going to find an empty division. It's rare you see such a great prospect going up against a master, really, in Vasily Lomachenko. Is it too much too soon for him?
Yeah. Personally, I do think it's a little bit soon for him. If you look at his record compared to Lomachenko, for Lopez, he has 100. He's 150 and 20 amateur compared to almost 400 fights by Lomachenko. And when it comes to his experience in the ring, he finishes a lot of his fights early. So he only has 5 fights that were even scheduled for 10 to 12 rounds. So other than that, he's finished most of his fights in the second round or even earlier than that. So for him, it's really hard to say that he would come in with an advantage right now. Being so young, he's still trying to fit into this body, which might be the reason he's taking this fight. Because maybe later down the years, when he grows into his body a little bit more, he's not going to be able to make this weight anymore. So yeah, it might be a little bit too soon for him, but it also might be the only chance for him right now to take this fight. But if you look at some other guys, when you can compare Lomachenko, he's a pound for pound great right now, currently in the division. So you don't want to compare him to a Pacquiao or a Mayweather. But if you look at other guys that went to fight Mayweather, Canelo, before he fought Mayweather, 18 championship fights. Before Cotto fought Pacquiao, 20 championship fights. But if you look at Lopez, he only has 5 championship fights under his belt right now, and he's going up against a guy who has so much experience, 15 fights in the championship for championships. And I think it is a little bit too soon for him, but also it might be his only time to do this fight right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You get these fights, they hand them to you, you take them, especially in boxing. But it's kind of interesting. 2 years ago, Teofimo Lopez, which is interesting because both fighters are trained by their fathers, okay? But those guys couldn't be any more different. Let's just say that Teofimo Lopez's father is kind of crazy. And he was trolling Vasily Lomachenko 2 years ago, telling him, "My boy is going to knock you out. You got to give us this fight." Well, the fight's here. Vasily Lomachenko's father is a little bit more like a bohemian, new age type of guy. He made his son take up dance for 2 years to work on his footwork.
Right.
Okay. Now, we know, and everybody's been clamoring for like a Vasily Lomachenko Tank Davis fight. And we're going to be talking about Tank Davis in a couple of weeks, by the way, because he has a big one against Leo Santa Cruz. But I don't think we're going to see it because Tank Davis walks around 160 pounds, and we know Vasily Lomachenko, there's limits to what his body can hold. We know Teofimo Lopez is going to end up as a welterweight eventually at 147 pounds. Is this going to be a big advantage for Teofimo Lopez on Saturday night?
I don't think it will be as big of an advantage as it might seem on paper. If you look at Lomachenko's last 5 fights versus, Lopez standing 5'8", 68 and a half reach. Luke Campbell, 69 or 5'9", 71-inch reach. Anthony Collin, 58 and a half or 5'8 and a half, and then 67 inches reach. So he's fought guys that are even bigger than Lopez right now. So I think the weight actually favors Lomachenko because Lopez isn't going to be able to carry his cardio into the later rounds. For Lomachenko being the smaller guy, he's going to be able to avoid most of the shots from Lopez. And he's going to, when you're firing and you're missing, that'll tire you out more than if you're firing and you're hitting. So I think the weight actually benefits Lomachenko more than it'll benefit Lopez in this fight.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you too. And we've seen this before. I remember all the talk before Mayweather Canelo, and everybody was saying Canelo's just too big for Floyd. Canelo's going to bully him all over the ring. He's probably going to knock him out because he's a bigger, stronger man. It wasn't that way. He was a slower man because he's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we can see on Saturday night. Now, let's get into how this fight could come off. As far as the betting odds, it's kind of strange because I really expected more of a pick'em fight. But the money has rolled in on Vasily Lomachenko. He's almost a 4-1 favorite in most houses. You could get like plus 320 on Teofimo López, who's a knockout artist.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take Teofimo López's side first. How does he win this fight?
He has to win this fight early. I don't see a fight happening where López comes out and he wins a decision over Lomachenko just because of the fact that Lomachenko has been doing 12-round fights, 10-round fights for a lot longer. And for López, his advantage comes in his power. And in those later rounds, you don't have the power that you would in the first couple of rounds. Lomachenko, he does make mistakes. You see that, he does get dropped at times and that he isn't a perfect fighter. And for López, that plays into his advantage because all it takes for López is one mistake. And he needs to go in knowing that it'll only take one mistake for Teofimo or for Lomachenko to come in to make one mistake, and that'll be it because he has that power right hand. Now, López may not be the most skilled fighter that Lomachenko has fought yet, but I think he might be the most powerful fighter. And that poses a completely different threat than a lot of the other fighters he's fought, especially the smaller fighters in the other weight divisions that he owns belts in. Because now he's facing somebody that's a fringe welterweight and has that power that the smaller guys don't have. So López needs to come in. He needs to understand that he has to come in confident and understand that he has an experience disadvantage and needs to show that he can make it up in these rounds and learn through the fight. He needs to be able to be malleable in the fight and not stick to just one thing because Lomachenko is going to come in and he's going to impose his will. He's going to walk you down. He's going to cut your angles and he's going to use feints. So for López, he needs to come in and be malleable in the fight and learn as this fight goes on. But his target zone is to win between rounds 4 and 6 earlier in that fight when he still has that power.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Teofimo López's last fight against Richard Comey. You could see Comey's a consummate professional. He's a consummate opponent, but nobody expected what happened, which was a complete annihilation. Now, yeah, I completely agree with you. Teofimo López has to keep contact with Vasily Lomachenko, and he cannot get into a boxing match. He has to turn this into a fight because we've seen what Vasily Lomachenko does to consummate boxers. He embarrassed and pretty much ended the career of a great Cuban, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux went into that fight. A lot of people were saying that was a super fight at lightweight. And we haven't heard from Guillermo Rigondeaux since because he got completely outclassed because he tried to box with Vasily Lomachenko. I agree with you. He has to finish the fight early. The only way he can win the decision is if he just beats up Vasily Lomachenko for all 12 rounds, and then it's just, and maybe drops him a couple of times, and then the judges just look at it and say, okay, there's just no way we can give a decision to Vasily Lomachenko. But Teofimo López has to keep contact with Lomachenko at all times, and he has to resist the urge of circling right. He has to keep to his left because Lomachenko likes to dig to his body with his left hook and then come upstairs. So he has to put those left-handed combinations together. So, and I know it's going to be because if you watch Teofimo López, if you're a power puncher, you usually like to circle to your right. He's going to have to resist that urge. He's going to have to stick to a game plan. He's going to have to crowd him. And I completely agree with you. He has to take him out relatively early because I just don't see the path to a decision. Do you?
No, I don't see a path to decision. And like you said, I would think that it really has to, like you said, make it a fight and not a boxing match because technically he's going to get outclassed. So he really has to make the fight less dirty or less technical and more dirty. And really just make it uncomfortable for Lomachenko to come in. Because if he's going to make this a boxing match where it's all about skills, Lomachenko is way more sharpened when it comes to his tools in his toolbox. So he's just going to, like you said, outclass him. And it's going to be really hard. I don't see a path to a decision for López coming in. I feel like it has to be knockout and it has to be early. And if not, that Lomachenko is going to take it all the way.
All right, let's take the flip side. The champion, Vasily Lomachenko. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, but some people would say, okay, past Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux, he was completely outclassed, although I really do believe that he's a world-class fighter. It's just that Vasily Lomachenko made him look that terrible. Okay? He beat Jorge Linares, who everybody thought was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. So he doesn't have much to prove, but this would be a hell of a head to put on the wall, because I don't think a lot of people were wondering, okay, maybe he ends up with a Terence Crawford. No, it's not going to happen. He's not going to end up with a Mikey Garcia either. Vasily Lomachenko just can't grow into that weight. And besides, those guys, Terence Crawford, Mikey Garcia, they're headed upward because there's more money at 147, 154. So I don't see the path to the bigger money fights for Vasily Lomachenko. So let's just talk about how he wins this one, because I think this one cements his legacy as one of the greatest lightweight champions of all time. How does he get it done on Saturday night, Johnathan?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the first thing that he has to do is be sound defensively. He needs to understand that Lopez's best chance in this fight is to win in the early rounds. So earlier in the fight, he wants to be, really sound defensively, keep his high guard, and use his technical ability early. Avoid the dirty shot, or try to avoid the dirty, getting away from the clinches, making it a little bit more technical, and use his footwork. His footwork is really going to be a big advantage. Lopez comes in and he's a little bit flat-footed at times, and especially since he has to cut a lot of weight, that might start to seep into the later rounds where he just becomes more and more flat-footed, and he's not avoiding as many of the shots as he should be. Now, what I think he also needs to do is just use the entire toolbox later in the fight. I think Lopez is coming in with a lot of confidence, and I think since he's faced people that aren't at the level of Lomachenko, that he has a sort of a false confidence with him. And for Lomachenko, if he can come in and if he can break that confidence early, confidence is really what you need in a fight. If you don't have the confidence, you're not winning the fight. So Lomachenko needs to come in, make him miss early, make him gas early, and then when he gets from round 6, 7, 8, empty that toolbox, cut off the ring, set up the feints. The feints are going to come early in the fight, and that's going to set up things for when Lopez is more tired in the fight and he's reacting to these feints and he's countering the counter. And that's when you'll see, maybe Lopez go in the corner like you've seen many other fighters just go into the corner and just not want to come back out because they're getting completely embarrassed by somebody who's on another level, another level technically, and his endurance is amazing. Being a smaller fighter, you're going to have more of a gas tank. So he's going to his path to victory really is just working through those later rounds. Lopez is going to come out firing early. Everybody knows that. Anybody who's watching this fight knows that. And so he needs to come in, understand that he's going to want to come out and try to take him out early. Just be really sound defensively, keep his guard high, avoid that right hand, and from there, just systematically destroy Lopez.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. He has to keep punches short. Don't wing punches with Teofimo Lopez. And just like I said, Teofimo Lopez has to resist the urge to circle right. Vasily Lomachenko has to resist the urge to circle left, okay? Because those big right hands from Teofimo Lopez are something else. They've taken everybody out so far in the division. Stands to reason that you're the smaller man. You don't want to get hit with those punches. So, yeah, just go right up the middle. Keep your punches nice and short. Just score, because when Vasily Lomachenko has scored before in the past, it usually has an effect later on in the fight, and his opponents tend to just fall down. So let's just get right to predictions before we do a little bit of news and we promo what we're going to talk about next week, which is going to be a hell of a UFC card. Predictions, Johnathan. Who wins? What round? How?
I'm going to take Lomachenko 8th round TKO, and I think that gives Lomachenko a long enough time to drain out the gas tank of Lopez. He's going to come out swinging. He's going to come out, and I think Lomachenko is going to make a miss. His footwork is superior. He's way lighter on his feet, and his guard stays high. And once he's able to empty that gas tank, he's going to definitely start piling up the volume. Like you said, those shots early that don't really hurt add up later in the fight. They continue to break you down and wear on you. And later in the fight, that's going to make you want to quit. Now, you've seen people go to the corner and not come back out. Obviously, the corner stopping it is a little bit different. I don't see Lopez quitting in this fight just because of of his age. He's 23. You don't see 23-year-old is going to go. He's going to go out on his shield, but I think he's going to get TKO'd in the 8th round.
Yeah, I'm somewhere there, but not ready to say that Teofimo gets taken out. I think Vasily Lomachenko shows his mastery, and he wins a unanimous decision over Teofimo Lopez. I think Teofimo Lopez will strike enough fear and pose enough danger where Vasily Lomachenko might not take the chances you might need to take to take him out in the 8th, 9th, or 10th round. So I'll take Lomachenko by unanimous decision. Win a comfortable decision, maybe 9 rounds to 3, something like that. There'll be some moments because Teofimo Lopez is dangerous, and there'll be moments in this fight where you say, whoa, can Loma be knocked out here soon? And it won't happen because I think Vasily Lomachenko is a master. He'll come out on top, undisputed champ of the world at the lightweight division. All right, let's get some news, and then we could promo what we're going to talk about next week. Johnathan, I'm a Conor McGregor fan, but I'm a Conor McGregor fan because of what he does for the UFC. He brings eyeballs, he brings money, he brings that big fight atmosphere. He's going to get people involved in the sport that we love. Why should I get excited about a fight between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier?
I think just because the world hasn't seen what Dustin Poirier can do yet. Dustin Poirier is one of these guys that come in, and every time he fights, he's delivering a masterpiece. I think, in my opinion, so far, him versus Dan Hooker is the fight of the year. Those guys just went to absolute war, and Dustin fought McGregor before. This is actually a rematch, and in that fight, Dustin was fighting really small. He was fighting 145, and he wasn't comfortable at the weight. And after he lost, he moved up in weight, and he's fought Khabib, and I think that Dustin Poirier, it's hard to say, but I think he did a little bit better against Khabib than Conor did, because he was able to get a rear naked choke into Khabib. And I was on the edge of my seat because I thought Khabib was going to lose that fight. But I don't know what Khabib's neck is made of to make him not tap from a rear naked choke that was in that deep. But Dustin is such a skilled fighter, and Conor is such a draw. I think this is a fight that can really, really just go and deliver what it's there for, because you know what Conor is. You know what Conor is going to bring to a fight. No matter what, it's exciting because he's not just the fighting. He's everything else that he brings to the fight. You know, it's the walk, it's the smoke when he gets in the ring. It's the everything that he does. His feather when he comes back out. And he wants to do it in Dallas, and there's a potential that he might do it in Dallas because that's a state where they're allowing a little bit more fans. And if they do it in the Cowboys Stadium, and you have Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, who's born in Lafayette, Louisiana, just next door, you're going to see a lot of people going to that fight. And it's going to be such a banger because both guys don't really use that much wrestling. They're not really guys that'll take you down. So it's just going to be a stand and bang war. And if I had to put my money on it early, I'm going to take Dustin Poirier. I think he's developed into the better striker right now. And I love Conor, but he hasn't been fighting as much lately, especially on the MMA scene. He beat Cowboy, which is just an win because Cowboy admitted that he was really scared going into that fight. And
he's on the way out too.
Yeah, and he lost to Khabib, and then he had the fight with Mayweather, which it was a fun fight to watch, but it wasn't. Mayweather did his thing, and kind of just like with this fight, with the Lopez and Lomachenko fight, he let Conor come out swinging early, and once he's done swinging early, he just pieced him up until he was done.
Yeah, and I think we could toss out the last time that they fought, right? Because it's been so long.
Absolutely.
And Dustin Poirier is he's a completely different animal from what he was when he lost to Conor way back when. All right, tell the people what we're going to be talking about next week, because if you're not excited for this, you just don't like combat sports.
So next week, we're going to see the undefeated lightweight champion, Khabib Nurmagomedov, 28-0. He's going to be taking on his biggest threat to his belt, in my opinion. You have Justin Gaethje, who is a world-class wrestler and a masterful striker, interim lightweight champion right now, and they're going to be facing off for the lightweight champion. And this is a fight that is so exciting to see because Justin has that knockout power. He's been knocking out everyone. Tony and Khabib were supposed to happen for almost 5 years, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, that fight's cursed. We're never going to see that fight.
The last time,
how many times I've called my friends and told them, "Hey, it's on. It's Tony versus Khabib," and they're like, "It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen."
It looked like it was going to happen this time, but who would have thought that a pandemic would have came and hit the world and stopped Tony and Khabib from happening?
Yes.
Like, of all things,
yes.
Something that doesn't happen in 100 years comes and happens and makes this fight not happen.
Yes.
But I'm just as excited to see Justin Gaethje because I think he is truly Khabib's biggest threat right now. He has the wrestling and he has the striking, and he's able to put people down so quickly. He's done it to everybody. And if Khabib comes in and he isn't on his A game, he lost his father Nurmagomedov recently, and if he comes in and that's in the back of his mind and that's additional pressure, you never know what that could do to him. Now, I think that'll be extra motivation just because of how faithful he is to his faith. But this is such an epic fight, and even in the co-main event, we're gonna see Jared Cannonier taking on Robert Whittaker for the #1 contendership for the middleweight championship. And what I love about Jared Cannonier, he used to fight at heavyweight, and now he's fighting at 185. And he's lost so much weight, and I think this is such a great fight for him because he has the chin to take punches from a heavyweight and has the power of a heavyweight, but he's fighting at 185. And Robert Whittaker is also one of these guys that goes to war. I mean, the fights with Yoel Romero, almost all of his fights are just masterpieces, no matter who he fights. And I think that's going to be an epic fight too. I think that would be fight of the night over the main event is the Jared Cannonier versus the Robert Whittaker fight. But we have an epic card next week. The opener to that card is the Kudalaba versus Ankalaev fight, and that fight has been booked for 3 times and it's been canceled. And those guys hate each other. They had the first fight where Ankalaev, he acted like he got staggered and the ref stopped the fight. And they stopped the fight way too early, and everybody in the crowd was booing, and they knew that fight was stopped early, and they have bad blood against each other. They talk crap about each other, and it's been booked twice since. It's been canceled, and that fight is finally happening too. So top to bottom, this is just such a phenomenal card. Topped off with Khabib versus Gaethje, and Khabib says he has something special if he wins next to Gaethje. Is it GSP? Is it Conor? We don't know, but we're gonna see. We'll find out after Sunday.
Well, a GSP match will get the blood flowing for even the casuals. Forget about the diehards like you and me. All right, that was Fight Week on 5 for this week. We will see you next week where we will break down that entire card. Maybe even get into the preliminaries. But till then, for Alfredo Arteaga, Johnathan Ramlakhan, see you next week.
Good night, guys.